let's get going. You're probably wondering who ScreenSkills are. We're the people who've organised this session. So our job is to be the skills body for the screen industries. That's film, television, visual effects, animation, and games. And it's our job to make sure that the people who work in that industry, or in those industries I've just been through, are the best in the world. That you can find out lots about ScreenSkills if you go on the website, because I know you've all signed up to us now, which is brilliant. Tonight, we're specifically, as you know, going to talk about what it's like to work in premium television, which is mostly drama, not exclusively. And we call that high-end TV and film. And those are the two departments who funded this amazing program. And then we're going to explain to you how this transferers training is going to work and what you need to be to get on it and what to do in order to apply. So that'll probably be about halfway through. We'll get onto that detail. Now, there are 5 other people who you're going to hear from tonight, and I just want to introduce you all to them. If you guys could just turn your cameras on, you don't need to put your mic on at this stage. So the first person is the lovely Amanda. Amanda, give us a wave. So Amanda is our lead trainer. Then we've got Allison Edwards. Then we've got Marcia Blackwood. And then we've got Fiona, who can put her camera on. And then Kevin. Go on, Kevin. I've been trying to persuade him to be really uncool and give us a wave, so he has. Kevin works with me at ScreenSkills, and he'll be the liaison person for ScreenSkills once you get to the point of applying for the course. First thing I'm going to do, though, is introduce and then hand over to Amanda. Amanda is the main trainer. It's her company that's doing the training, but she is also a fantastic freelance makeup artist and designer. She's based up in the northwest of England. She can tell you where, and she's got over 25 years experience working in film, television, and photographic makeup. Over to you, Amanda.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us this evening. I'm really excited to tell you about our new training programme with ScreenSkills, the film and TV training for hairstylists and makeup artists. So, as you know, I'm Amanda. I trained in hairdressing, makeup and beauty therapy many years ago, and I've been very lucky to have a wonderful career working mainly in television as a hair and makeup artist. I also have a passion for sharing my skills with those who want to learn, and over the past 2 decades, I've taught media makeup and hair skills in colleges, universities and private schools. I now run the media makeup academy called Makeup United Academy, which is part of Makeup United Artists, and we're based in Media City in Salford in the northwest, for those of you that are not familiar with that. And this evening I will be introducing 3 amazing hair and makeup artists and designers who all have wonderful skills, experience and stories to tell us about their career in film and television. May I first introduce the wonderful Allison Edwards, whom I had the extreme pleasure of working with last year. She was designer for an amazing high-end television production, which I'm sure she'll tell you all about. She was wonderful to work for. And she also has 47 credits for hair and makeup on IMDb. For those of you that are not familiar with IMDb, it's a global website that lists the cast and crew for all film and television shows. And Alison also has 3 more shows coming out this year, so it's quite an exciting time at the moment. Alison, would you like to tell us about some of your career highlights?
Welcome everybody, and thank you for having me, Amanda. I was really honoured when you asked me to do this, because it's always been my passion to kind of like turn the baton over to the new generation that's just coming up. So I started my career in 1984, and I started doing like magazine work for mainly Black Hair and Beauty, Black Hair magazine, so mainly the Black beauty industry. So I would do things like Afro Hair and Beauty Show, and I have seminars on stage and stuff like that. And I'm quite a shy person before I did makeup, because I was a qualified nursery nurse. And then one day somebody had seen some drawings that I did, and he said, God, you shouldn't be here, you should be doing something else. And in my heart, I always knew what that was, because I always had this passion for films and television and fashion and music and all sorts of things, against my parents' wishes, of course, because they wanted me to go into a traditional career. But I followed my heart, and I decided that I wanted to get into it. So I started doing the beauty stuff, and then I met a choreographer who was dealing with a lot of music artists. I was working with artists like Boney M, the Weather Girls. I was working a lot with Simon Napier Bell, who also worked with George Michael. And so the music industry was quite a heavy kind of commitment for me. And then I ended up touring the world with Mark Morrison, who had that big track, Return of the Mac.
Wow.
And it was great. I went all over the place with him, and it was an amazing experience for me. And then I also was at the same time working on the Trisha Goddard show. So I was a makeup guru, making over the audience or guests of the show to make a difference in their lives. And for me, it was like an awesome thing. People would actually see me on screen, which was very unusual for makeup artists. See me on screen, I'd bring the person on to the stage, and we talk about, you know, Trisha Goddard would talk about the life story, and then we would make a difference and change that around them. We had, you know, like cases like teenagers that had been bullied, and, you know, a man that had lost his wife and was in a grief-stricken place. So we did a whole makeover on him. And those kind of things really touched my heart. So I did that for 3 years. And then in 1990, I shot my first ever feature film, and I was head of department, believe it or not, on my very first job.
Wow.
Which is just crazy. I had a team of 4 people, and it was a period costume piece. It was all set in the 1950s and 60s, around the time of Malcolm X's his reign, and that was great because I met amazing actors, and it was the first time I'd ever met actors. And that's when I decided that's the avenue I want to go down. I want to do drama. And so I tiered all the other stuff away, and I concentrated on that in between working at places like Selfridges, because obviously the work was so slow. And the other thing was that I was getting pigeonholed for only doing Black people. And that was not so. So I decided to take myself off to Shepperton Studios, and I did like an evening class course just to get my skills up. I'm self-taught. So because my parents wasn't, you know, kind of like advocates of me getting into this industry, I had to then sneak off and do things, you know. And then I got a comedy series called Get Up, Stand Up, which was great because we did things like we'd make people up to look like Mary J. Blige and, you know, Coolio and all these like American artists. So it was great. And I realized that I was really great at copying. I could copy images from a picture and put that on somebody else's face. And I thought, wow. And then I got involved in a theatre piece called Black Heroes in the Hall of Fame. And Black Heroes started around 86. So a lot of this stuff is layering. My life was very layered. So 1986, I joined Black Heroes in the Hall of Fame, which went round to the state. We toured America twice. We toured Jamaica, and we toured the whole of United Kingdom and Wales. So, and that Black Heroes in the Hall of Fame was about all the Black people that contributed to the world. So we had the kings and queens of Africa, you know, great people like Nelson Mandela. They did a duet, him and Winnie did a duet. And so taking the pictures from the actual people ended up being my forte. So, and now I do all sorts of things, like I teach at RADA, I teach makeup I do a masterclass at RADA, and I teach them how to do makeup for their self-tapes, because obviously this is a new phenomenon since the COVID. And also they have a film that they do at the end of the 3rd year, and I then help them, I read their scripts, I help them to develop the characters in a visual way. So I love what I do. I am actually in love with what I do. And for me, every day is about being a better head of department, you know, making sure that everybody is enjoying themselves and it's a great experience. Sitting to my right, I have one of my assistants that was on the tower, Izzy. I don't know if you remember her, Amanda. Izzy is a trainee, but she did all our special effects, and kudos to her. Yeah, so it's all about bringing on the new generation. So that's why this particular platform was really important for me to get involved in, Amanda. As you know, as soon as you told me about it, I was like, yes. I really want to contribute towards this. What else can I say?
Sam here. Is it worth explaining what head of department means?
Yes.
And like who would be typically below you in that?
Right. So head of department is the person that breaks down the scripts, meaning that you read the scripts, you pick out all your characters, you find out what their journeys are, and you break that down way before you even involve your team. And you also work really closely with wardrobe and obviously your director. And if your writer is around, you want to know what their ideas are, so you can implement a bit of their ideas, a bit of your ideas. You also speak to the actor as well to find out what their idea is, and I mesh all of that together. The next person down, and the other thing is that the makeup designer also will hold the budget, and she may hold the budget for her dailies. She'll hold her budget obviously for hair and makeup products, whether that be wigs, nails. It's from head to toe. If there's tattoos, you design them. And obviously that goes back and forth between production, producer, director to okay and green light certain things. And you may have one to, like for the tower, for instance, Kieran's character, he has a rose tattoo on his arm, and we went back and forth. How many stems do we have? How many leaves do we have? All of that kind of stuff. How large are we going to have it? We want it to be seen in camera at an instant that you notice it if he's in the shower. All of those kind of things. You go to production meetings. Sometimes you're able to go to the actual readings, which is really helpful. You know, the script reading. So all the characters sit around a table and they read their parts. It's very helpful. And then also you have a close relationship with continuity. Continuity is always my go-to. If I'm not quite sure about something, like did they have the nail chipped on one hand, I will go back to continuity. She will be able, or wardrobe actually, because all of your looks are then recorded by photographs and hair and makeup notes. So you will know which actor has what on what scenes and when they change, if they change. It's a lot actually. Now I'm breaking it down. You do all the shopping, which is the best part. I love doing my shopping for my makeup. I thoroughly enjoy it. What else? And then also I will then have a supervisor. Now my supervisor, sometimes people tweak this role, but for me, my supervisor is always there to make sure that my dailies are in place.
Do you want to explain dailies as well, Alison, because a lot of people might not have heard that phrase.
Exactly. So your daily is a daily makeup artist that comes on when the days are much heavier. When you have crowd scenes, when you have extra supporting actors that are more than 7, I would imagine 7 or 8, I would bring in dailies to oversee the crowd scenes and to oversee the they will be responsible for making up the supporting actors that don't have lines sometimes. Or they do have lines, because I remember one of our actors in the tower, the lady that was in the wheelchair, she had lines, and you guys looked after her, and you did an amazing job. So the dailies would come on, and they would be come on for certain times. And now those days may be many, those days may be few, but it's always good to be a daily, because you're learning so much about etiquette on set, knowing when to be quiet, knowing when you can hop off and go to the loo, knowing when to speak with actors if you don't need to have a conversation, because remember, they're in their heads of their character. So, you know, it's learning about the etiquette is very important for a daily to then move on to be a makeup artist in a full-time production.
Alison, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Back to you, Amanda.
That was amazing. And can I just reiterate, when I worked for and with Alison last year, she's absolutely 100% right. She's very focused on not only productivity, but making sure that everyone has a really good time and there's a great atmosphere and wonderful harmony in the team, in the department. I have to say it was one of the most enjoyable experiences working on a production I've ever had. So thank you.
Oh,
and I wouldn't be saying that if it wasn't true. It's absolutely.
I know you wouldn't, Amanda.
Loved every minute of it. Thank you. We'll come
You're
back
welcome.
to you, Alison. I could listen to you all day. Okay, so I would like now to move on to Marcia Blackwood. So
Hello.
Marcia has a hair and makeup career spanning 20 years, working with black hair and makeup for people of colour. And she's done lots of productions, and we are dying to hear about some of your experiences, Marcia. So I will hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. And hello, everyone. And thank you for coming. I can't see any of you, but I know you're out there because I can see the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, my name's Marcia Blackwood. As Amanda says, I have a career now, yes, spanning about 22 years. And just like Alison, my parents didn't want me to work in makeup, and it was never really something that I thought about because of the fact that that was never presented to me. I knew that I loved makeup, and I probably loved makeup ever since I was knee-high, just playing with dolls, cutting their hair, and wearing makeup to school and getting in trouble with the teachers calling my mom because I come to school in makeup and I've dyed my hair. So yeah, it was always a part of my life. However, I never really saw it as a career. The most I ever did before I became a professional was sell Mary Kay. So that was like my little way into just getting the feel for putting makeup on other people's faces. So I did a lot of that and did people's makeup for going out and the odd wedding. Even though I wasn't a professional, people knew that I knew something about it. And so it was only when I went to America. So I'd had a career working with ex-offenders, working within the prison system as a counsellor, and then moving into education and becoming a lecturer. And then I moved to America. I had an experience that happened here, and somebody who I'd worked with said, you know what, I'm going to America. I want to start a magazine and I want you to come with me. So he didn't have to ask me twice. I went out there, and that introduced me. It was a hair and beauty trade magazine. So that really started to introduce hair and makeup to me on a more professional level. We used to get lots of things sent to us to review, so I got to play a lot. And then I realized more and more that this was really, really my passion. It was the only thing that had been consistent in my life, makeup and playing with makeup and enjoying makeup. You'd always find me in England at Boots, going through all the counters and looking at, you know, just basically whatever was new. You don't have to walk around to look at things now, but back then you used to have to go and try things and test things. You couldn't get reviews online, so you had to, you know, basically walk the streets. And so the thing didn't work, and then I got a job as a proposal writer for a non-for-profit organisation working with offenders. And it just wasn't for me. I just realized that, you know what, I need to do something that's artistic and creative. And because Mac had sent us lots of products to use, it was that company that I felt that I really wanted to work for. So I approached them and I said, I have no real experience, but I love your makeup and I love the ethic behind it. They used to work with people with HIV and AIDS. I used to do that as well in the prison. And so it just kind of, it wasn't just makeup. I felt like they had they were giving something to society as well. They did charity cards for Christmas, all sorts of things. So things that I felt that touched me and had value. And so I contacted them and they interviewed me, and I got the job. I went through a trade test, I got the job, and that was the start of my professional makeup career. Quite late on, 30 years old, and just stepping into something completely new. So I worked with Mac for about 10 years. You know, just obviously working my way up. They have a certification program, so you get to do fashion weeks, you get to do major events, and it was just like my dream job. I could be creative every day. I got to meet and speak to people. And I think the wonderful thing, which I think that you're going to have a lot of people within this group that work within retail. The great thing about working within retail and this work is that, number one, when you're in retail and you're working for a company like Mac, as soon as somebody steps onto your counter, you're already analysing them and looking at that look immediately. You don't have a chance to test with them. It's something you've got to create the look there and then. And if they come for an appointment, you've got to create the look there and then. You need to know what your colour palettes are, what their colour palettes will look like, what their skin is like. So it's a really quick thing. And Mac and working on any retail counter teaches you how to do that, how to analyse very quickly. Not only that, it teaches you a lot about people, about personalities, about customer service, and all of these things are transferable into this industry. You need to know how to work with people. You need to know how to communicate. And so it's like almost never believe that your retail experience is not worthy of anything. It's really, really, I think it's very important within this industry to have experience like that and to have experience of life. So I'm sure most people here who have got experience within hair and makeup have got experience with life because they're not from a TV industry, which sometimes is a bit make-believe. And so, so I went back into makeup, but then I was still always pulled towards working with the prison system and working with offenders again, and still not necessarily seeing the value in what I was doing as a makeup artist. So I went back to work in the prison system, but doing makeup, still doing makeup on the side and still freelancing. And then it just got to the point when I moved into education that I just didn't enjoy it at all within the prison, that I made the decision that I was going to just only focus on makeup, but to go further with my makeup career and not work in retail and brides. I was going to do more photography, more editorial. And the one thing that I didn't know anything about was television. And so I made a conscious effort and decided that I was going to buy products and, just like Allison, teach myself how to work with products. Started doing people's hair, friends' hair, lots of braiding, crochet braids, colouring, and basically just made that decision that this was the direction I was going to at least try and go and see if I enjoyed it. So I entered something called, it was a boot camp, it was a television boot camp in Birmingham, which was for everybody, all crew members from sparks to camera, to hair and makeup, to the art department, for people to see what this industry was like. So I joined it just to get a feel. And I was like, I met so many people that I felt were like me. And I no longer felt guilty for wanting to really do this as a career. And so I joined it. And then they told me about something called the Trainee Finder, which is something that is run by what was Creative Skill Set then, which is now ScreenSkills. And I applied, and it's a national program that you can join at, I suppose, at any age, and it invites you to to apply and to also, if you're chosen, you get to then work on TV shows. So that's what I did. I got my first job and realized that you're not going to be able to do this work if you want to be stationary maybe in your own city. You have to be prepared to move and move around the country. And I think every one of us know that we don't just stay still. We have to move where the work is a lot of the time. You know, I'm from Birmingham. These ladies are from up north, which obviously means that there's not always as much work as there is in London. So you have to be prepared to move. And so I ended up moving and going to London and working on a TV show. And that was the start of my career. It was just making that move and making that concerted effort and decision to put my whole heart into it. And this work is a commitment. It's long hours, very long. I remember the designer saying to me, you need to be in for 5 a.m. I couldn't believe it. I've never been up at 5 a.m. unless I was catching a plane. And so when she said you need to be at 5 a.m., I was like, oh my gosh, I don't understand why. And then by 9 a.m., we were out on the street shooting in the blazing sun. And by this time, I'm thinking it's probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon because it feels like I've been up forever. And so I'm looking at my watch going, my God, it's 9 o'clock. And we're not going to finish till I think it was about 7 o'clock. And I was like, I don't understand. I can't do. And then at that point, I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think this work is for me. I love being on the bus, but actually getting up that early and thinking I've got to do 12, 14 hours. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this every single day. But you know what? The job and working with a crew and everyone just pulling together and just creating that team environment, I don't think there's anything like it. This is like the most amazing job, the most amazing experience. And I feel so much gratitude just because of the fact that I get to do this every day. I get to leave we all get to leave a little bit of our legacy behind in every show that we do. And I just think that's something where, you know, unless you're an artist and you've got, you know, art on the wall, you've got it on screen, you're leaving your signature on every single job that you do. And I just think that's the most amazing thing. When I'm long gone, these things will still be here. So
Marcia, that's absolutely fab.
Precious.
I could listen to you forever, as Amanda said about Allison, but I'm going to hand back to Amanda. We'll come back to you for questions, don't you worry. But over to you, Amanda, for the final intro.
Okay. So that was wonderful, by the way. And can I just quickly say, I think there's a lot of people out there listening to you thinking, wow, that this is quite a commitment. But like you say, some of the wonderful stories that you have to tell and the experiences make up for the early starts, don't they? So I'd like now to go to talk to Fiona. Last but not least, Fiona is a hugely respected and an established makeup artist. She's worked on productions like Downton Abbey, Bridgerton, Fantastic Beasts. I'm sure you've heard of these. Fiona and I did work on something a couple of years ago, and when I met her, I instantly liked her because it's just her work ethic and everything that she does. She's an absolute perfectionist. If she learns a skill, she will absolutely nail it completely. And I think that level of commitment and tenacity comes through in her work, and I'm really excited to talk to her live. So Fiona, please tell us about.
Thank you so much. you guys have Marcia. You've said it all for me now. I don't need to say anything. I think my journey is an amalgamation of both of you, Alison and Marcia. So I started in 1997 and I studied law first, and I realized that wasn't for me. And the only other thing I was really interested in was beauty therapy, because I spent most of the time in the salon. So I did a 3-year hairdressing and beauty therapy. I really didn't like hairdressing, so I kind of didn't go to many of my classes, which was a big mistake. And then when I qualified, I went off to work in the industry. But when I was there, and I'm actually digressing, in my interview, the lady asked me why I was here because I was overqualified. And she did say that makeup artistry was one of the jobs you could go into. So that's where the seed came in. But she said, she wasn't very encouraging and said that, you know, it's a very, very competitive industry and you have to be very talented and, you know, you're very lucky if anybody makes it. So it kind of did deter me, but it was in my head that that's what my end goal would be. So I went off and I worked as a beauty therapist all over the world. I managed salons, I taught, I assessed. And then when I turned 30, I decided to retrain. So I went to not a great college in Manchester, 1 day a week that taught me nothing. Not like the colleges that are there now, and the support's amazing. We didn't have anything. I don't think I even had a computer then, and there just wasn't any resources. So off I went, and when I finished, I started to work for free, which is unheard of now, but that's what we did. And I carried on. I had a beauty therapy business, so that funded me financially, and I started to get experience doing that. And then I fell pregnant. So actually I stopped working for a couple of years, for 9 years. And I think that's important because I have managed to do this job and being a single parent with 2 kids, you know, and being an older person as well. So it's very doable. And when I went back to work, I applied for a scheme which I didn't get, and it was a real blow. And like you said, Amanda, there's one thing that I do have is I'm tenacious. I won't let anything get me down. I do for a while because I've had a rocky journey to where I am now, and but you know, I'll process what's happened and I put it in my solar plexus and I think, come on Fiona, you can do it, and off I go. And that's what I did. And I went into Harvey Nichols and approached the Mac counter and asked them for a job, and went through the same process as Marcia, and I worked as an associate. So I only worked 30 days a year so that I could try and get as much experience in hair and makeup. And that's where my journey started. So I started then getting jobs on corporate videos, which are training videos for any businesses. And then I built it up, and I then went into fashion, I went into music promos, then I worked on commercials, and really big commercials. So I was really lucky. And I was teaching myself. I really didn't have any skill. And I think that's really important to know that you can, you know, if you have a creative eye, and a desire to work in the industry, you can make it. And I did. So my jobs then got bigger and bigger. And as I started to work more, I then funded myself and went and did short courses in wigs or facial hair, or and also always trying to go into salons and offer my services and doing work experience. So I worked with a good friend of mine who I think is on this platform, in her salon, and she's a black hairdresser, and she taught me so much. And I'm here, you know, today because of her, and her kindness. And yeah, my jobs got bigger and bigger. And now I work in film. I work in feature films. I've just finished on a Marvel film, and I've got a film that I designed called Ali Neva that's made the long list on the BAFTAs. So you know, I've come from not having a very strong skill base to where I am now. So
can I ask you a question, Fiona?
Yeah.
And perhaps throw it open to everyone. You've all had such a wide, broad range of jobs, which you know require different skills, and you've learned different things in each of them. Would you say that, plus the fact that a lot of what we do is giving a service and looking after people, would you say those skills are important, you know, whether it's beauty therapy or working on a counter, those sort of service skills and social skills?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think, you know, for me, because I had so many other jobs before becoming a hair and makeup artist, I think it all feeds into this job, because all my jobs as a beauty therapist, dealing with people, you know, dealing with difficult personalities sometimes, which you're going to get in this industry, and you have to know how to deal with that. So yeah, I think it's a really good experience. You don't have to come, you know, right from the word go from doing hair and makeup. Yeah, I think it's really good to have other life skills for this job.
And can I touch on the travelling, because you've all mentioned that in your careers you have extensively travelled, and each job can take you to another country, never mind another city, and you have to be prepared to just pack up your kit and go, you know.
Yeah, I was in Serbia all the way through lockdown. So I left in January, just before it went slightly crazy, and I came back 2021 March, because they ended up shooting 2 seasons back to back because they were so frightened at what may not happen or what may happen. So yeah, but the job can take you all over the world. I've been to South Africa, and I did 3 years in America, Serbia, Jamaica, Barbados, oh my God, Spain. I was there for 6 months. It can take you anywhere.
When do you get to do your washing?
Well, on the last job, I had someone to help me with like cleaning and stuff like that. So that was an asset, but that's not always what you're going to get on a job, believe me.
I think also, you know, if people come into the industry, I know when I started to work, and I would get a call and say, can you come down to London? I work in London a lot. I'm based up in the north in Leeds. And, you know, I might get a call in the morning to say, can you come and work on blah, blah, blah in Pinewood for a week? And this was Monday morning, and they'd want me there on Tuesday. And in my head, when I first started, I think, oh my gosh, how am I going to pack my kit, sort myself out? But that's what you have to do. And you then, it becomes a way of life that you can just pick up and just go. And it's quite hard when you first start. I think, you know, for me, just going from Leeds to London was a job in itself, to find where I needed to go to find the unit base, which is where we work out of, was quite stressful. And you get there and it's all of like 4:30 in the morning, and you feel exhausted because it's taken so much energy to get to work, and then you have to actually do the work. Which I used to be exhausted after a day's work and think, oh my, because I'm a barber, this is more exhausting than being in the barbers and doing like 25 haircuts. But you do get used to that. And I think that, you know, because it's a tough industry, and you've got to have a thick skin and broad shoulders, because some people aren't going to be nice to you. But it is incredibly exciting. I find it very addictive. It's really hard to say no to work. And in my grand old age, because I've got grey hair now, I do say no, because life is also very important. I think for everybody that's starting, that, you know, when you first start, like me, I worked on everything, because you have to get your name out there, you have to network, but you realize that actually this is also a job, and you have to be balanced and grounded, and don't let it take over, because otherwise you miss a lot of life things. So now I try and take breaks between each jobs, because otherwise you just, you know, when you're working, I do main team now, so I work, you know, we work anything from 12 to 15-hour days, which you can't even understand that. And my last job was for 4 months, and life stops for 4 months. And if you keep, you know, if you do back to back, then you don't see anybody. And so I think that's also important too.
Fiona, thank you. I'm going to jump in now because I'm going to move us on to the next section, and there are lots of questions coming out. And Marcia, I realise I didn't come to you. I'm also watching the chat, and just to reassure people, there is flexibility as well. I know some people are saying on the chat, how can I do this? I've got 2 young children. There is the great thing about hair and makeup artists, as you've heard people talking, the panel talking about things like dailies. So hold on to that thought. This next section, we're going to talk about what the course is, the training. And I just want to set it up before I hand over to Amanda. Why me, in my job, and my colleagues in high-end television. You'll see it written HETV, that's the posh TV stuff, the Downtons and the Peaky Blinders and the big shows and the Bridgertons of this world. Why did we need to do this scheme? And it's because there are just not nearly enough hair and makeup artists working in film and television who know how to work with black hair and makeup for people of colour. So this scheme is a way of bringing in people who are already super talented in one of those 2 areas, maybe both, but we're not expecting that, who can bring their skills in and then accelerate up through the system. You've heard the panel talking about dailies and makeup artists and makeup supervisors and heads of department designers. So this is hopefully a great way to get some of you, and as many of you as possible, into a training where we can accelerate you into our industry, which is desperate for people like you. I wanted to say to you, the cost for the training, which Amanda will go into in more detail, there is no cost to you. Should you get on the program, as Amanda will explain, there's some online work and there's also some practical work. The practical work will happen up in Salford, Media City. If necessary, we will pay your transport, we will pay you accommodation up there. We can't pay you for the days you spend training, but if you then go on to do placements on productions, you will be paid for your time when you're on those placements. So there should be as fewer barriers to you doing this as is possible. And you can talk to us as you're applying to Amanda, if it's right for you to do so. We have various other systems in place within ScreenSkills to support you. As Amanda talks to you about the course, please add more questions into the Q&A box. We're building them up and then we'll rattle through them with Amanda and with the panel as quickly as we can. But Kevin will also explain there will be another session for answering questions for people who want to apply. The other thing I want to point out is you've heard me and Amanda say, this is for people who have amazing transferable skills. So it may be that this training isn't right for you. Maybe you're already a trainee, maybe you've already got some experience on in film or television, maybe you don't quite have the right transferable skills, but we want to keep in touch with you. So tomorrow there will be an email that will go out, which Kevin will talk a bit more about at the end, and on it will be an ability for you to sign yourself up for us to keep in touch with you. As you heard Marcia say, we have other schemes like Trainee Finder, and it may be that that's something that's more suitable for you. So if when Amanda goes through the detail now, you think, oh gosh, I don't qualify to apply for this, please don't feel you've missed out in any way. Please keep in touch with us. And we're in contact with productions who need people, and you might just fit the bill. So I just wanted to say that before I now hand over to Amanda, who's gonna, so listen up, this is the detail stuff, who's gonna talk you through who you need to be, what you need to do in order to apply for the training. Over to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you so far, guest speakers. It's been amazing. So, as Emma said, what we're looking for is for people who have either or both skills in working with black hair or in makeup for people of colour. And there is a definite shortage of these skills in the industry. You might be someone who works in a salon, a studio, or beauty counter. It could be someone who does mobile work, so things like weddings, proms, private functions, photography work, or live shows and events. Whatever your background and wherever you work, if you've got these skills, you have the ability to transfer them into what we've all said and we think is one of the most exciting and fulfilling careers. And this free course, as Emma said, I just want to reiterate that, you'll be taught by highly skilled teachers who are hairdressers, barbers and makeup artists, and they also work in the film and television industry. So, you know, these are people that have an insight. They can give you the right skills and the right understanding to make sure that you get on this career path as quickly as possible. So let's break down the course so you've got a little bit of an insight as to what to expect if you're lucky enough to get a place on the course. The initial part of the course focuses on gaining insight into working in TV and film industry. So you'll cover things like how to break down a script, how to interpret a designer's brief, how to follow a schedule or a call sheet, and how to maintain continuity notes. So for those of you listening, all these things sort of came up into the guest speaker talks. You'll also learn what it's like to work on set or away on location and in a busy hair and makeup department of a high-end television or film production. We will help you to get to know the industry inside out and all the relevant organisations that you need to be familiar with. We'll cover what it's like to work as a freelancer, knowing how to find work and networking and how to promote your services to managers, supervisors and producers. So that's the first part of the course, and that will all be delivered online. So you can do it in the comfort of your own home. It'll be 2 days a week, and that's 6 for the first 6 weeks of the course. And that to me is a bit of the TV boot camp part, because there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to follow. But if you get through that, then comes the fun part. The second part of the course focuses on practical workshops. So we'll help you fill in your skills gaps, either in hairstyling, barbering, or makeup artistry. Training will be given to help you get started in TV and film as quickly as possible at the lowest level of being a hair and makeup artist in the department. So we've talked about being a designer, a head of department and a supervisor. You would come in at entry level, which means you get the time and the dedication that you need to learn all the steps to take in order to progress up that ladder. It will take time, but as I say, it is a very, very worthy career. Once you've gone through that and you've got all your skills and you're ready to sort of get out there and experience life in drama, the final part, and this is for all successful participants, you'll be offered a paid work placement on a high-end television production or film production. And this is provided by companies such as Netflix and ITV Studios. So you'll really get to work with professionals on amazing productions. I'm not saying that you will be doing very much practical work. A lot of it will be observation, but we all need that in the beginning. You know, you can learn as much by watching someone and going home and putting those skills into practice in your own time. It's baby steps is what we're saying to you. You know, you need to sort of learn at the bottom rung and make sure you get it right before you move to the next stage. So I hope that this course can provide some of you who have the experience and skills we're looking for an opportunity to utilise them in what has become a thriving industry throughout the UK. High-end television and film production has never been busier than it is at the moment, and it needs more skilled hairdressers and makeup artists to support its continued growth. So as much as you may feel that you need a career change, the industry needs you. I hope by listening to our amazing panel of artists and designers who've shared some of their career stories, you'll have gained an insight on what it's like to work in film and television. But now it's time to try and have a go yourself. So, Emma, are we going to have some questions at this stage?
We are.
Excellent.
So we've now got, and beautifully timed, if you don't mind me saying so, Miss Amanda, it's like you've looked at a schedule. So we've now got about half an hour, and it doesn't have to be that long. If everybody's found out everything will end sooner, or if people have to leave, please feel free to. You will get, I know there are kids to put to bed and whatever, you will get all this information sent to you. But let's have a look at some questions. Right, question for Allison. I would like to know how Allison was able to make space for herself in the industry while being self-taught. How did she build her network, not having a background in the creative industry and such?
Well, I didn't have any time for myself, really. No, I was fairly lucky in the sense that one person led to the next person, led to the next person. So originally, as I told you, the secretary in the nursery saw a drawing of mine. That led me to actually go and work for Estee Lauder. They were my first house I ever worked for. So, and then a model had invited me to meet the choreographer, who then taught me, got me involved in the music industry, and he also did theatre as well. So that was Black Heroes. Did I have time for myself? I don't know if that was the important thing. I think that I was so driven to try and get into the industry. I must have had time for myself, because there wasn't that much work around in the 80s for someone like me, who, as I said, was self-taught. But I just gathered all my makeup, through working as an agency girl in the stores. So I started getting like free bits of makeup. So that helped my kit, build my kit. And then after that, I think that I just got involved with the theatre, which took me, as I said, all over the place, all over the country, and then to Jamaica and then the US. And then my shyness, it seemed to kind of like disappear. I wasn't shy anymore, because I felt that I was contributing towards something, even if it was a photo shoot. And then I belonged to this company called Media Image, and Media Image they married the black hair salons to the black magazines. And so my work was like, I got front covers, and it just started to make me really, really confident. Yeah, I think that's I've answered the question. I think it was a slow process, but it happened.
Brilliant, thank you. Question for Marcia. Do you have to be both hair and makeup in the industry, or can you specialize in one? In the UK, it's probably a good way to put it, because you can talk about the differences between the UK and the US, for example.
Yeah. So yes, in the UK, you need to be able to do both hair and makeup. There's no sort of differentiation between the two things. Obviously, some people specialize more in hair and some people specialize more in makeup. But when you sit an actor in your chair, you need to be able to do both things. You need to be able to cut hair, barber hair, style hair, and you also need to be able to put a scar on somebody's face, which is obviously the makeup side of it. So you really need to be able to do both. In America, as you were just saying, it's one or the other that they specialize in. But in this country, it depends sometimes on the designer as well. Some designers might take somebody on who has more hair heavy experience, because that's going to be really important for this job. And so that might be the case that, you know what, the makeup is going to be minimal, and so therefore they need someone who's stronger in hair, or vice versa. But generally it's good to get experience in both, because it will make you feel a lot more sort of powerful and stronger in your craft if you can do both.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to amalgamate a few together. There's a few people saying, how do I get in touch with makeup designers, and how do I get hired? Could I be a daily? Are there any specific websites or agencies that hire in hair and makeup people? Perhaps, I don't know, Fiona, would you talk about crew databases, agents even, or who it is that actually hires, i.e. the heads of department?
There is, oh gosh, I think It's starting off, it's networking. For me, that's what I did. My jobs that I went on, when I finished them, I made sure that I sent my CV to the person who'd hired me. There is something called also lookbeyondthelist.com, and on there are some great pages, Instagram pages like Palette 16, which is for hair and makeup artists. They also advertise jobs on there. How else?
I mean,
Mandy.com.
Is it fair to say that, Fiona, everybody, that some makeup designers will be with certain agents even these days, and that it's actually the makeup designer, generally the HUD, who will hire in their team? So they're the people to target, really, aren't they?
They are. You can, I mean, you could find out. Sometimes you can, type in. It is also very hard. There is a directory. What's the directory called that all the films come out? So you can get a list of the films that are going to be shooting. They won't have the HOD for that job,
no.
But they may have the line producer, and ultimately it is the hair and makeup designer that hires you. But if you send a CV and a covering letter to the line producer, they can forward that on. But also, like ScreenSkills also put out, we've got a database, haven't you? And
yeah, I mean, I would also, it sounds really silly to say, but when in the beginning I did go hair and makeup, I was more production and producing and stuff. I used to look up the credits. I used to watch the telly and watch the film, write down the credits, Google a bit, and send ideas off, and send CVs and stuff off. Okay.
But there's also Mandy.com.
Yes, there is, which is,
and there's also Star Now. But you have to be careful that you're, that, because obviously you're not being looked after by an agent. So you just got to make sure that these people are kind of kosher, because you don't want to get onto a job and
I mean, Amanda,
you're not
would you like
getting
to
looked
talk a
after.
bit about Beck2? Would that be useful as well, just here, so people have
absolutely. So Beck2 is a freelance union, and it represents freelance crew who work in television and film. And the hair and makeup branch, which is based in London, focuses on everything hair and makeup for film and television. And you can get a wealth of information by just going onto that website. And I'll make sure we put that in the chat. So you've got the website there. There's loads of information that gives you ideas of who to contact, how to get started, where to look for training, etc. What I did want to say about the training is the fact that, we've all talked about how we got started and what training we did initially, but this is an industry which you need to constantly update your training. You need to continually be keeping up with your skills, because we need to have such a broad range of skills, as Marcy's already said, in hair and makeup and special effects and wigs. I could go on, character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great. It's got an insight, and we will, we spend a lot of time at ScreenSkills pointing people to the right thing, and we do that sort of training. But somebody was asking, it's Beck2, BECTU. It stands for Broadcasting blah, 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 Union. So it's not somebody did different spelling. But another question: who would you say? Would you say you need to qualify in hair to go far in the industry in makeup, in hair and makeup? I suppose the question's asking about the various levels that you would do in a salon. Are there people in the industry who haven't done that qualification?
There are in film. I think I work in feature films, and it is separate. It can be separate. So I have got friends that just do makeup. I do think it's harder to get more jobs if you just niche yourself. So I think it's really important to be a strong hairdresser. I think that you'll go a long way if you're a strong hairdresser and you can cut and color. Yeah, definitely.
Somebody, which I can partly answer, asking, do you need to be part of an agency to get work? And as you've heard, no, they do exist. Some do exist, but most people not. And how do you apply for Trainee Finder? So in fact, probably the best thing, won't take up too much time. Trainee Finder recruits once a year. They've recruited for this year, but they'll come around again in October 2023. And that is for people just starting out, really. Very different to this. We're asking people who are coming with amazing pre-gained life experience and skills. And Trainee Finder is for somebody who already knows they want to work in our industry, in hair and makeup, but they're very early on in their journey. So check it out on our website, but it won't be recruiting again until October-ish time. Question for Fiona: how on earth did she, no, I've added that, how did you find traveling and working hours with being a single mum?
Ah, that's a good one. Well, I was a daily for 15 years because of that. That was hard because I wanted to do main team and everybody else was climbing up the career ladder because they could take main team jobs, but I didn't. So I just did daily work. How did I manage? Don't quite know, to be honest. I kind of felt like Erin Brockovich, if anybody's seen that film. It'd be like, can anybody have my kids today? But somehow I managed. You know, I had a strong network, family network. So my sister helped and my mum was amazing. And then when they got to be and I didn't work all the time either. I juggled it. So my main focus was my kids. And then when they got to high school, I worked a bit more and then I had a nanny. So yeah, I just juggled. I just juggled. It was hard. It's a bit of a blur. I'm not sure how, but it is doable. But I did dailies. I only did dailies, and I designed little jobs.
Yep.
You know, but so it is doable. There is a way.
Yep. Thank you so much. Now, a few people just asking, so I'm just going to sort of be clear about this. Some people saying they're not from the UK. Now, ScreenSkills, as I said right at the beginning, our job and all our funding is here to upskill people to work in the UK film industry. So we can accept people, but they have to have the right to be resident and they have to have the right to work here in the UK. And they have to have a clear desire to move lock, stock and barrel over and work in the UK. So I'm really sorry for a few people because I know it's popping up. Somebody asking, and hopefully we can just point them where to go. Question from Amanda, I think. Can you tell us what items you have in your kit and what's essential?
Oh my God.
And maybe actually, Amanda, it's a good time to talk about, will people need to have all their kit, all those sort of kits to come on the course?
That is a really good point, actually. Just to answer the first part, I think most makeup artists and designers would agree that you pack your kit according to the job that you're doing. So you always look at what is required, and we have extensive kits, so it would be impractical to take everything everywhere, especially if you're going abroad. So yeah, you go above and beyond what you think you'll need, because usually the thing that you leave at home you need. But yeah, we have to take in consideration what is required, if it's characterization, you know, what you're going to need for that job. And secondly, we will provide whatever kit the participants need on the course. So someone's coming to us with extensive skills in hair, and they've got the scissors and they've got the you know, heated appliances and the rollers and everything, but really they haven't got very many skills in makeup, or they haven't done any makeup at all. Then we're going to focus on making sure that we give them those skills, we give them that training and the kit to go along with it, and vice versa. So we basically are in a position where we're going to evaluate what each individual needs on the course, and we will assign everyone their own mentor to make sure that they are supported, and not just throughout the journey of the training, but whilst they're doing the work placement and then hopefully beyond. Some of our guest speakers that we have talking now are also mentors in the industry, and there are many wonderful, you know, other makeup artists and designers who have this desire to just give back to the industry and help the next generation on the ladder, the career ladder. So they take time out of their busy schedules to spend mentoring and supporting young people and new entrants and students alike. So we're very, very lucky in as much as it's a very nurturing industry that you're coming into. There's always someone that can support you, whether it's ScreenSkills, whether it's Bec2, or whether it's people that you've worked with on productions. You know, this is a main resource that we have, is this networking ability. And I think if you're coming from an industry where you're employed and you've never been self-employed before, it can be quite daunting, but you have to understand that the support is there. And certainly when you're part of a film or TV crew, it's like a big family. You know, we're all there to sort of support and help one another. And that's part of the beauty of it as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to pick up a few practical questions. People are asking, how long is the course? So I think, as Amanda said, it's the first 6 weeks are 2 days in each week online. And then, Amanda, the second part is 2 weeks. It will depend. We will, yeah. Amanda's going to sort it with you. And then the placements will be at your convenience as well. We would never, you know, if you're not free to be on a placement, you're not free to be on a placement. So so yeah. And then somebody else said, are the paid placements for those who are trained on the screen on this course, or can they be given to people who have a good enough application past experience? Well, to be honest, if you've got a good enough past experience, you're not right for this course. That would assume that you're already ready to go out and work. This is to transfer people who don't yet have either the right knowledge in the screen industry, or need hair or makeup upskilling to match the other half of their already amazing transferable skills. I've answered that one. Yeah, it's somebody asking, and I think we touched on, what's the best way to get in touch with hair and makeup designers? It's a bit, I mean, try Beck2. There will be people who make their information public. You may well find, if you Google some of these lovely people on this, they will have an info at their where they're happy to hear from people. Okay, really nice one. I wonder who would like this. Allison. Unless anyone else wanted. Other things to look out for and how to protect yourself so you're not taken advantage of with regards to pay, workload, expectations, etc. And actually somebody asked, will we be taught how to price ourselves? So I know I would just say Beck2 have the most amazing website
all the time
with industry rates on it that most productions adhere to. And if they don't, and they're really clear, they will say you should expect to get this for this grade, this, and that's cameras, lighting, runner, makeup, whatever.
Yeah, to me, Beck2 is the place to go. When I first started, I joined Beck2, and I came away from it for a little while, maybe about 7 or 8 years. I was in America for a while, so it wasn't going to be pertaining to where I was in location wise, but I rejoined Beck2 about 5 years ago, and they are always really, really good to talk to them. I also go to the film forum that they have at the business center once a year, and Beck2 are always there if you want to ask them questions. I had a bit of a situation with a producer that I felt wasn't being fair, not just with myself, but with other members of the crew. And I went to Beck2 and they really helped me. So, and it ended up being quite amicable in the end. But I would always say that Beck2 is join Beck2. Once you start working, because I think obviously that subscription is it comes to a cost to be part of Beck2, but it's always a valuable platform to be on. And I would start and stop with them always.
And perhaps we should just add that Beck2 is made up of mostly volunteers like ourselves. You know, you can all be a part of Beck2 and have a say and have a voice. So you can go there not just to access support and advice, but also, you know, to be part of the decision-making process. So it's an important organisation that's made up of not just employed people who work for Beck2, but also people who are members like ourselves. And we have a vested interest to make sure that industry standards are maintained or improved through this organisation. So yeah.
And you can also get Beck2 rates without being part of Beck2, just so you know, you can do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and when you first start out, I think the fee is nominal per month. So if you're a
£5
trainee,
a
I think
month,
it's something
yeah,
like
so
£5.
£60 a year.
Yeah, or £6. So yeah, £5 a month. Yeah.
There's somebody that's asked, do you think there's barriers to particular disabilities? And if so, do you think there's any way of overcoming them? I would say from a ScreenSkills point of view, when you apply to Amanda, if you've access needs, list them. We're there to support you and find ways around things. So I don't know if the panel would like to talk about if they've, if they themselves have come up against disability challenges, or how they would work with somebody who was working with them on their team. Anyone want to dive in?
I mean, personally, I would be happy to have anybody who has a disability on my team if I felt that they were, capable of doing the job. But I think in real honesty, I'm going to be sort of real talk here. It's really a production company's responsibility to make sure that there's accessibility for people who have a disability. So, for example, if you had a physical disability, it might be difficult to do this work because of where we sometimes find ourselves. But it's not to say that it couldn't happen. It's not to say that there wouldn't be other things that you could do within the hair and makeup department. I think that needs to be definitely something that the industry looks at more, and how all departments work as well. I don't have obviously any issues with working with anybody who's got disability, but I think it can be quite difficult in this industry depending on what your disability is, if I'm honest. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think Beck too, is trying to address that because I sit on the equality and diversity panel, and I think that is something that they are trying to address. And yeah, I agree with you, Marcia.
And I was just going to add that I once had a student who had difficulty walking. She used walking sticks, and she was concerned about working on location, being able to get up the steps on a trailer, that sort of thing. And I kept in touch with her. She's got now a wonderful career. She decided to specialise in prosthetics, and she works in labs.
Yeah.
And her work is beautiful. She's worked on some incredible productions, and she's so articulate. Her attention to detail is phenomenal. So she sits basically and she sculpts and she molds, and she's utilising her best skills. So her disability hasn't affected her, and it was that tenacity that she had from literally training. She was determined to get into the industry, and she has. So, I would never discourage anyone who has a disability from following the dreams. Definitely not. Go for it.
Brilliant, thank you. Few people are coming through saying that they don't have official qualifications, but have worked extensively in black hair salons. Can they still apply?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We want Fantastic. Passion, we want enthusiasm, we want someone who really loves what they do and is infectious with that sort of skill and that enthusiasm. So yes, definitely let us see what you can do, and please don't let something like not having a qualification stop you either.
And just reassure somebody else saying, what will we have to include in a cover letter? Amanda, Kevin and I have been developing the application form, and it's nothing like that. You're not going to have to spout long essays about why you want to do this. It will be, this is not a degree course. And incidentally, somebody also asked, is this academic at all? Will we have to write project reports? Unless, Amanda, you suddenly want to get into all that, do you?
No, definitely. It's a visual, practical skill. We work with our hands. It's a creative skill. So yeah, no, we're not into essays and dissertations and that sort of thing. So that's fine.
Cool.
Don't worry.
There's a question coming through quite a lot, which I think I can best put together as saying, what's the life of a freelancer? A few people were saying, are there times when a makeup artist is out of work? Who'd like to take that one?
Yes, there will be times when you're out of work, definitely. And when that happened to me, kind of like the first chunk of my career, because I'm not going to say that it doesn't, it's very different now for me. But I used to get very depressed, and I used to be like, why isn't the phone ringing? Why isn't the phone ringing? But then after a while, I've learned that these are the times when I can have for myself, because, you know, now I write, you know, I paint, I do all sorts of other things other than doing just makeup, and I produce a short film as well. So there's other things that you can do to fill that time. Don't panic, believe in yourself. Just it's always very a good idea to have something else to do, so that you're not going, oh my God, I'm not going to work anymore, you know. But yeah, you will have times when you won't be working. Then that might happen.
And I think
it's important to try to prepare for those times as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, there could be a chunk of time where, you know, you may not, but then you can always think about dailies as well. There's always dailies work. There's a lot of that. So it's like you can fill your time in a crowd room doing dailies. But as I said, try to prepare for the fact that you may not be working. Think about the things that you can do. Think about additional training that you can do during that time, or what you can teach yourself. And then from a financial standpoint, obviously, those are the things that stress us out the most, the fact that we're not working and there's no money coming in. And so it's like trying to prepare for those times as well, because it will make it a lot easier.
brilliant.
I always had another job. So all the way through, if I wasn't working, I could go to my other job.
Yeah.
And it varied in my job, and then finally, you know, I changed my other job to makeup or hair. So I think that always helps. And actually, when you're working, your mind is busy, so you're not worrying about the phone not ringing.
Yeah,
so I think that helps. And then I think also the other thing I do is just try and put, it's really hard, but try and put a little money away, so that when you're quiet, you've got that pot of money to draw on. So you're not worrying that, you know, I've got no money coming in. And so it's
retail's always a good thing, because they have agencies, and you can kind of like juggle those days when you're in store, and then when a job comes up, you can say, no, I can't work this week or that week. That's always a good alternative.
And what we do is makeup and hair. People have makeup and hair, so there's always friends and family, weddings, occasions, etc.
Yeah,
there's always something to keep you busy.